the other day, and we were sort of saying like, I'd much rather not take my cardio out than take my cardio out.
100%.
Like,
we said before, like check-in wise, and this is again like quality of service. Sam, plug the. If you want coaching,
quick ad.
quick ad. Hey guys, if you enjoy the podcast, coaching links available. But we've said before, like if you imagine, let's say the life of an online coach, we get up. First thing we do is going to either eat a meal or potentially crack on with check-ins. But what we do is we go for a walk, and then we'll do some cardio, or for me it's cardio and then a walk. And I would much rather, like, there's been a few days, not in this prep because I'm doing daily cardio in the morning fasted, but more so, let's say in my off season, where potentially if I had a client show or whatever, I'd get up a bit early and I'd just crack on with check-ins. And the first like 3, 4, 5 check-ins, you're still half asleep. You're not as cohesive. Your general level of kind of focus isn't there. And I'm not going to say like a client's going to notice, but it's the same as like, for example, I don't do check-ins. I try not to post-workout, and if I do, it's because they're usually late.
Yeah, it's maybe one or two.
Yeah, 1 or 2, because I'm just no way near as concise or as actually kind of applicable to the actual what I need to say. And obviously over here at Team RFit and FK Physiques, we pride ourselves upon the best quality coaching service available. And obviously
links
as well.
Below.
Yeah, links below.
Application forms
below.
But no, it's true.
No,
like
it is one of them.
We say like, I'd much rather get up, go on a walk. Because the thing is as well, like as soon as I'm out on a walk, that's work mode. Like that's me like, okay, now I'm working.
I feel like
so I'm straight on my phone.
I'm
listening
almost
to,
like
to check-ins.
Whenever I'm at Sanaya's, I'll sometimes, depending on my workload or that day, I'll go to Pure Gym with her. She gets up at like 6, so I'll just literally get up with her, go to Pure. I'll do the stairs, so it's a little bit different from the bike, and then I head back. And there was like a few times that she's got a treadmill now at hers, and I go for a walk like the second I get back, because we've already walked there. I've done like 3,000 steps. I'll have about another 2,000 to 3,000 to do. I immediately will be like, right, I'm starting work. And she was like jumping on the treadmill, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, she was like, oh, I do a few steps. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm carrying on with the walk. Like, I'm going to make sure I need to get back to WhatsApps. Like, it's quite weird how my mind is like, I can't just sit around, and the second I'm out and about, it's like, right, crack on, work. This is when it gets started.
Like,
yeah, and if I don't, even 5 minutes, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's once you start building that routine. I was saying the same thing to a client the other day. I was like, once you have that routine in place, like, as soon as one thing falls out of it, like, it feels like, oh, everything's gone wrong and the day's been ruined. It's like, well, it hasn't. You can just pick it back up again, but it's more difficult than if you just keep that routine. And I literally said to him my whole routine, and I said it within like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I said to him, I was like, that's because I've done that for the past probably like 2 years. I was like, I had a good routine obviously last year before I competed and even before that, but it changes, doesn't it? And you build more efficient sort of systems in place.
And I think you can get a bit slack in certain, like in a gaining phase, it's very easy to be like, okay, I'm not doing cardio, potentially could get up maybe 10, 20 minutes later. That 10, 20 minutes over 6 months turns into an hour later. And then it goes, you go to bed a bit later, you're pushing your meals back,
again,
your sleep
how much
quality's
worse do you
impacted.
feel for doing that?
Oh, 100%. If you're waking up and you're like, just going and having a meal straight away, food's high, like it's very easy. And then that's the reason why you hear people say, oh, I felt really sluggish, I feel unproductive.
Not got a very good appetite.
Yeah, and it's like, because
have a like pull back. I think I need to diet. Like, you shouldn't need to diet in a long-term gaining phase, really.
No.
Like, unless you've gone a bit too far and it's got a bit excessive. But like, look how, like I always say, like, look how fat I was. Like, I was very fat.
Oh, mate, you were awful.
I was massive.
You were fully blown.
I wasn't lethargic in any way, was I? I wasn't struggling to breathe or... Like, I've heard people who have been lighter than I was then and a lot taller going, oh, I just can't hack it.
But then also, I do think, and this is like me being completely...
Guys, thank you very much for watching the podcast. We do really appreciate your story tags over on Instagram. So please do keep those going, because they do go a long way. We do really appreciate those.
It's so easy just to complain about where you're at. Like, people make out that like, oh, bodybuilding is so hard. Oh, so the low food, the high food. In reality, bodybuilding is like, I'd say somewhat challenging at the peak of a phase if it's your first ever time doing it, or if it's something new to you. But in reality, like, it's just a case of, do you actually want to make improvements? If so, fucking eat your food. And if you don't want to make improvements, don't eat your food. Or likewise, if you want to get lean, do you want to just make sure to tick your boxes? Like, I think it's quite a common thing, and it's human nature to be like, oh, I'm grinding this, I'm doing this. Everything has to be so much like, I'm putting so much time, putting so much work into it. In reality, it's like, congrats, you turn up to the gym, you train, you eat your food, you go to sleep, you take supplements.
It's grinding though, that.
No, but it's not. It shouldn't be.
It
I
is.
don't think it should be perceived.
Hashtag grinding.
But I think it is to some people, because I think to some it's a chore. Some people, like, just getting to the gym every session of the week is like,
but
oh my God.
The reason that it's a chore is that they haven't established that routine yet.
Yeah.
So like it's constantly like, or almost like they're trying to break out of habits that they've been in previously. Like I'll have clients who like say almost find it difficult to just go to the gym, which is like fine. But the reason that you find it difficult to go to the gym is because you've not built that kind of routine yet. You know, I don't even think about going to the gym.
No,
I don't have to think. I end up turning up there. It's like you're on autopilot.
Yeah, but I feel like even when I started training, for me it was the other way around. It was like, oh, I need to take a rest day, but I don't want to take a rest day.
Yeah,
like I was always very much.
But that's I think because like we enjoyed it. Starting up anyway. Like I think like for some people, we were always sporty growing up and stuff. A lot of people weren't. So you get some people who want to get in good shape, but it's completely out of their routine, their lifestyle.
They're just general persons.
Yeah,
so their personality is not to train.
Makeup isn't to be athletic, but they want to be. So then you have to be like, right, okay, well, this is going to be more difficult than somebody who loves being athletic. So you just got to find, again, it's sort of just ways of getting them into that and getting those habits in place. But I was just going to use like an analogy of like, you know, when you learn to drive, like you have to think about everything. Yeah. But then now, like when you drove back from Birmingham just then, did you even think about like much? No. No, you were working on your phone. Oh, just don't say that. Don't go on your phone. That's 3 points. Honestly, 6 points, actually. It's true, though, isn't it? Like, you have to think, like, when you're doing your driving lessons, you have to think about everything. Checking every single mirror. When you're changing gear, you're thinking about everything. You're thinking about how slowly you're coming off the clutch. Like, you think about everything. And that's the same kind of thing when you're getting into a new routine or a new... If you're training, like, if you're getting into training, you're having to think so much about every single movement. You're having to think so much about every single meal, and you're tracking every single meal on MyFitnessPal, and it all looks like just random numbers. But the thinking part of it's huge, like in the sense of, I think it's a good thing. Like if we imagine, let's say, trying to build a routine and like kind of trying to establish habits, like I've seen so many studies that actually just suggest that like thought towards the actual action will help significantly. So if you associate an action towards a negativity of, oh, my food's so high, oh, I've got to get to the gym, the likelihood of that almost like attributing towards you just going, oh, I don't want to do it, is quite common. And unfortunately, like I said, we live in a world nowadays where everything is like, oh, this is hard, this is a challenge. And like, I almost assess and think, like, you should know within yourself, like, is this for you? Do you want to do it? Like, do you want to... Not everyone has to be a bodybuilder. Not everyone has to step on stage or whatever. Like, if I was to do this prep and go, you know what, it's probably not for me, I'd just be like, right, cool, I'll just focus on training, focus on coaching and doing that. That's not going to be the case. But some people will do one prep and they go, wasn't for me. Some people do one prep and go, sick. Like after my first prep, I was like, I could do this again within 6 months. I could do this again next year. I wanted to. I would have if I would have been at the level I wanted to be. Where some people, they do a prep and they go, yeah, that's me done for a few years. I need a bit of time to recover. So if you're thinking about, like you say, it is good to think about like at least trying to have positive thoughts towards an action. Yeah. But do you have a positive thought toward like brushing your teeth or going in the shower?
But for us, that wouldn't be a challenge because it's just a case of that's what you do.
Yeah,
but I bet to some people, like literally just waking up and having a shower, or you know, like getting a weekly haircut or a monthly haircut would be like a bit of a challenge. And I bet to some people that's like getting to the gym. You know, like sticking to a training plan, sticking to their diet. You know, I'd find it crazy to think that like I would miss a session or miss a cardio session. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't even think about waking up and not doing my cardio. You know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like you almost have to look at it from on a smaller scale and then work it up. So like if someone's like, oh, I missed a session this week, like you can almost then think, well, like right, okay, why did that happen? Oh, it was this got in the way or whatever it may be. But a lot of the time it's a case of just like poor planning or an easy.
It's usually planning.
Yeah, it's poor planning or it's an easy excuse. Like now and again, fair enough. Like emergencies can happen, and it's like I just couldn't train. Fair enough. But a lot of the time it is poor planning. But like that's when I would almost be like, look at it on a much sort of smaller scale. Like, could you have got to the gym? Oh yeah, I probably could have got to the gym. Well, if you could have got to the gym, you could have trained. Yeah. Like, how long did you realistically have to train? Even though you maybe didn't plan it that well. Oh, I only had 45 minutes, so I just didn't train. Yeah. I was like, well, you still could have trained. Yeah, you probably still could have got your two main compound movements done. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it's better than just not doing anything at all. Yeah. And like, I think if you then work it up from that. Like, obviously, again, it's difficult. Not everybody's going to respond to that. But if you're somebody who's like, as soon as there's one small thing, small reason to go, I just can't do it.
It's the end
it's
of the
like
world.
you've already lost. Like, you need to almost think of it as.
But I think life is like that in any way. Like, that's like those sort of challenges. We notice it with clients. Like, the clients that do well are the ones that are very resilient in the sense of if a few things pop up and it's like, oh God, that's a bit of a curveball, but they still respond.
They don't even tell you. Or they'll bring it up in the check-in.
Yeah, and you'll
like,
go,
it's nothing.
yeah, you'll go, mate, haven't you mentioned this? Like, you should have told me about this. Yeah. But unfortunately, like, it's very much a case where one thing goes out of line. And like we said with our routine, like, it's stressful, but you still got to turn up and get stuff done. Like, there'll be probably a few times I can think of where, like, let's say, might have had potentially, let's say, when we were at the Arnold's, and I think we had a few check-ins that were over for the following day. We still trained at the same time, but it was just like, oh, you've got work to do tonight. Yeah, I got a bit of work from yesterday.
It's like,
you know, but like, it wasn't where we were like, oh, let's just not train because I've got work to catch up on, or oh, let's just train at a different time and throw off all our meal timings, or let me wake up at a different time. Like, no, that's not going to happen, you know?
Yeah, I think, like, especially, I think your morning routine's so vital as well.
Start the day off right, guys.
Yeah. But no, it's true, isn't it? Like, if you wait, as soon as you wake up, I was saying this again to my client the other day, I was like, if you wake up at a time that you didn't intend to, you've already lost. Like, the first battle of the day, you've lost. So you're already on the back foot. It's
then
like you're 1-0
to have a cold shower.
Down.
Yeah,
like,
you have a cold shower.
But no, like, let's say you're like, right, I'm getting up at 7, and you don't get up till 8:30. Like, you've already lost, and you're going to feel good for that? Like, no. Nobody's going to feel good for that. Like, you might go, oh, but I just needed the sleep. Yeah, and it's like, oh, fair enough, I'd say go to bed earlier. But let's say you needed that sleep and you get up at 8:30. That's fine. You've got up at 8:30. You're an hour and a half behind. It doesn't mean the whole day's ruined.
As cringe as it sounds, my, like, accountability and technically, like, anxiety
makes
me
100%.
up. I don't need an alarm clock. I don't have an alarm. I wake up because I'm like, my head is like, right, you need to get up.
Yeah,
like,
I do still set an alarm.
I haven't set an alarm for 2 years, 3 years. I just wake up at the same time because I go to bed at the same time. So I just wake up at the same time. Granted, though, prep actually is ruining that. I'm getting up, like, every week. I'm like, 20 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier. Like, I woke up at like 5:45 today, which was 4:45 because the clocks went back, and I was like, feel fine, feel sound. But like, I didn't even wake up to my alarm that was set for 6. So yeah.
So you just said you never set an alarm.
No, I did today because I lied. No, I haven't set an alarm for 2 years. I did today because I knew that we had to be out and about. So yeah, unless I've got a show, no alarm's set. No, so no wonder. So yes, I sleep through and just wake up and message Finn going, I just woke up at 10 a.m. I don't know what's happened. I needed the sleep, clearly. But yeah, the longest time I slept, and we didn't even set an alarm, was when I was in Canada. We had, first day I was in Canada, we went to, well, let's say the first day. The day before, we were in Liverpool, and how long did we sleep for Liverpool Saturday night? Like 3 hours?
Yeah, it was a good night.
And then I flew to Canada that following day, and it was like the whole day of travelling. I slept on the plane for an hour. And I think we got into bed at 7:30 p.m. So now I like fell asleep straight away. I was like, I can't sleep at 7:30 p.m. Like, I've got to stay up till like 8:30, 9. I think I got maybe to 8. So I got about half hour later. I think I woke up at like 11. So it was like 8 till 11. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, that was amazing. No, it was amazing sleep. And it was like, I legitimately felt, no, I don't know if it was 11. It might have been 10. And I was like, that was the best sleep I've ever had. And then I was fine.
Maybe you need 14 hours sleep every night.
Yeah, clearly I need 14 hours sleep. I don't know what happened. This guy didn't sleep for like 3 days, that's why. So, yeah, fantastic. Right, do you want to get into the question, Renee? Join the podcast. If you are interested within coaching, potentially with myself or likewise Finn, feel free to head down to the links below and we'll have our coaching applications and we'll catch you over there.